Now, we all seem to have one friend, maybe it's even you, that obsesses a little bit too much about the parts, the look, the feel of everything that goes into each guitar that they have. Now, I am also guilty of this myself to an extent, but some people take this a little too far. So today, I just kind of want to go into what I believe are truly the things that shouldn't be ignored when it goes into building a guitar or modifying your own guitar, or just buying a new one to begin with. I'm Jim from Audiomo, and let's get started. Now first, I'm going to start with wood and wood choice and the differences between them. And I'm mainly going to start with the necks. So as a general rule of thumb, there are 4 types of wood that are most commonly used on guitar necks. You have maple, you have rosewood, you have ebony, and now gaining popularity because of regulations, you have pau ferro. So is one better than all the others? Is there really that big of a difference in sound? I'm going to start with pau ferro, and the reason I'm going to start with pau ferro is because there seems to be a lot of conversation about that specific kind of tone wood, because Fender and other companies have been replacing regular rosewood with pau ferro, and some people are really unhappy with that. It was good enough for Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan's signature guitar had a pau ferro fretboard. It's actually technically stronger than rosewood too. So as far as quality goes, it's not inferior in that aspect at all. Now, the reason I think, and this goes for me as well, that people would prefer rosewood to pau ferro is simply because of the color of the wood itself. When you look at guitars that are classics from the 60s and they have rosewood boards on them, they almost kind of look ebony. Like, I've been shopping for a vintage Fender Mustang for a little while right now. Still haven't found it, but I'm continuing to look. And the ones that pop out to me the most are the ones where that slab of rosewood is like almost black. It's really dark. It's gorgeous. And I think that many guitar players, we grew up watching people play these vintage instruments and kind of determined that's what they should look like. So when you see pau ferro, it's notoriously a lighter tone wood, so it doesn't look correct to you. So that might be the turnoff right there. However, in practice, it's really not that different, and I have all 4 of the woods I mentioned. Pau ferro is just as good as all the other ones. In my opinion, the fretboard material is going to have one of the least amounts of impact on your tone. Now, there's a very interesting video by Chris Buck that will go deeper into this. I'm going to leave the link here, and you can check that out. It's really interesting. He was really surprised, and I was really surprised by the results. But these kind of stereotypes about maple and rosewood, he focused on those 2. They kind of didn't go to what he thought they would. The bottom line is, I prefer ebony the most because I love the really dark look of it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have as big of an impact as you think, so don't overstress about something like that. Next, regarding tone woods in the bodies, this definitely will impact tone more. However, the construction themselves of how the neck connects to the body, I think is going to have a greater impact. So for example, a high-end PRS is not going to use the same kind of glue as a Harley Benton, like $150 Les Paul style guitar, even though they're both technically mahogany body instruments that are set necks. And why does the glue matter? The glue matters because you really don't want any vibrations. You want to be able to have the wood act as one piece. So the greater that the vibrations are going to be, the less sustain you're going to have, and tonally, on paper, you want as little of that as possible. You want small amounts of vibrations, not more. As far as the actual wood tones of the body, they'll make a difference, and really, they're going to impact the weight a bit more than the tone themselves. Now, under the microscope of a recording environment, you will notice subtleties in the frequencies if you really get down to it. But just know now, most gear is so good that in 90% of the situations you're ever going to be in, you're not going to hear a gigantic difference. I've talked about this before, but one thing that had really surprised me in the past was comparing a chambered F-hole Telecaster with a regular Telecaster body, but tonally they were almost identical, and that really kind of set my head like, whoa, is it really that big of a difference? And again, I'm going to go back to the weight. I think it's going to impact the feel of the guitar due to the weight difference more so than the actual tone itself, especially on thin lines. Multiple piece bodies are also another thing that are key to keep in mind here. In theory, again, the less pieces of wood that you're gluing together, the more sustain it's going to have, the tighter all the connections are going to be, thus more sustain, better tone. Now the good news here is some of the parts that I consider the most important parts of making a good quality guitar are some of the cheapest to fix on other guitars that you might buy. And when I say that, I'm talking about the nut, I'm talking about the pots, the switches, and the actual wires that you use to connect all the electronics. You want properly braided wires on all of your connections. You don't want to have to worry about shorts. You don't want anything to get dust inside or any sort of oxidation or liquid that could potentially get in. You know, these things do happen. So anything that you can do to ensure that you have good, protected, quality connections with good components is going to go a long way. And I stress this because it's really not expensive. High-end pots are like $10 at the most, and your guitar at most is going to need $4. So just spend the money. It's definitely worth it for the long run. Same goes for the nut. Even if you do not have the tools or the confidence to cut your own nut yourself, if you order one that's pre-slotted, you could take it into a tech. He'll do it and do a setup at the same time, and you'll probably get charged maybe like 10 or 15 bucks extra than you would on top for a setup. So for under $100, you'll have something that will significantly improve a guitar. I think that we are victims of our own selves, in a sense. I think that we will listen to what guitar players say. We will read what they write on forums or on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or wherever it is that you're kind of talking to other musicians. And sometimes you can be really greatly impacted and entirely swayed for no other reason than, you know, just somebody's word of mouth. And you don't know if that person's qualified to say that. You don't know if they've actually tried these things, how many guitars they've played. And at the end of the day as well, they might not have the same tastes as you. So to me, the most important part of a guitar that you're going to keep for yourself, it has to feel good. Now, it's nice to have top-end electronics. It's nice to have a really high-end hand-rolled fingerboard. It's nice to have a light guitar that's really resonant. But at the end of the day, you could have all these things. But if it doesn't inspire you to play it, then what's the point? And that's why I say, whether you have a Chinese guitar, a Japanese guitar, a Mexican guitar, American guitar, wherever it's from, if you enjoy the way you feel when you play it, that's all that matters. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, the natural creative process is going to come first because you're not thinking about anything else. And I think we get in our own way because we do overanalyze. If I just had this, I could get this sound, and then I could make this song, or I could record it to this record. Yeah, in the game of inches, when you're really that deep into it and taking it that seriously on a professional recording level, those things can make an impact. But for day-to-day use, for your creativity, and just for your overall musical happiness and satisfaction, these are not things you should be so worried about. Pick up your guitar. If you enjoy playing it, just play it. Get off Sweetwater, get off Reverb. Just play the guitar, man. That's it. You ever notice that you can see a lot of videos, especially now in the advent of YouTube, where top guitar players played really cheap guitars, the really cheap amps, but they still sound like themselves? That's because the most important thing that you have in your arsenal are your hands. Your hands are where the tone primarily is going to come from, and it's what makes Stevie Ray Vaughan sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Marty Friedman sound like Marty Friedman, and you sound like you. If you really want to change your tone, that's a really good place to start. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to get into that about the gear. I actually got a few questions on social media and on YouTube regarding some of this stuff, so I thought I would just kind of wrap it all together instead of spreading it out. And, you know, I'm guilty of some of these things too, and I need to take my own advice a little more, but it's something to consider. So, if you like today's video, please leave a like. I greatly appreciate it. Subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think the most important part of a guitar is to you. What can you not live without? Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow.